Glitches are events that occur that seem as though our current reality is actually a kind of simulation. Common types include objects vanishing and sometimes reappearing. Sometimes the objects are never seen again. Sometimes they reappear in the same location, which has been repeatedly searched. Sometimes they reappear in broad daylight, in a position where they should have been seen easily. Sometimes they reappear in physically impossible locations, such as a locked room or container. People being seen by different witnesses at different locations at the same time, or not being seen in places where they should have. People vanishing, often for considerable times, often with multiple searches, then just reappearing and claiming that they never left that spot. People seeing themselves. Changes in everyday objects, such as the color of the front door, the length of a piece of cloth, the presence of mature trees where trees have never existed. Also, time slips and time freezes, where people interact with different time periods, or where they observe all movement and noises that just cease over a relatively short or larger area. The following glitch stories are from real people who have had things happen that they just cannot explain. Every morning, I open my bedroom window, make a cup of tea, fill the dishes I keep outside for the birds, and go back to bed with my tea to watch the birds play and drink. This morning, I cannot see the bowl I always watch from my perch in bed, or the tree it sits under. Both are out of my line of sight. Still, there when I go outside, but it's like my window has been moved to the left. I can't even see the trees when I crane my neck to the left. This isn't the first time I have noticed changes in the placement of various things in my environment. I remember in 2012, a building just appearing in the town I lived in. My then husband thought I was mad, said it was always there, but I know it was not. I drove that road daily to work, whereas he rarely went down that side of town at all. Anyway, one day, a huge red garage-style building housing a mechanic shop and a farming supplies was just there. That spot used to be a large fenced junkyard. I remember very clearly a blue sedan that sat on top of the pile of cars. I used to make up imaginary notions about that car. I woke up last night, and when I looked around my room, everything was in tiny grid form, like a computer grid making up my view of the whole bedroom. At first, I thought I could be dreaming. I could see my husband laying next to me, and I wondered if I touch him, would he or I even feel it, as it all looked like a simulation. He did feel me touching him and woke up and asked if I was okay. I told him everything was in a strange simulation form, and he mumbled that I was okay and fell back to sleep. But I feel like I seen something I wasn't supposed to. Has anyone ever had deja vu that turned into a prediction? I went with a friend to a woman's apartment when I was 16. She was 21 and let us drink beer. She had on the Weather Channel that was talking about a hurricane. We were also drinking hurricane beer. After making a joke about the relation, my brain glitched out. Everything my friend said I suddenly remembered. Then, when I listened to the TV, it was the same feeling. But unlike my usual bouts of deja vu, my mind skipped ahead or something. And I didn't just have this happen before feeling, but I started predicting what was going to happen. After a few minutes of listening and staring in disbelief, I turned to my friend and yelled out the end of my friend's sentence. Everyone stopped and looked at me wide-eyed. Feeling awkward, the 21-year-old stood up and said, "Okay then, I'm going to the bathroom." But in my mind prediction, she was supposed to say, "I'm going to get another beer." So it was like that one statement broke the whole experience. I told the 21-year-old what she was supposed to say. She said she actually was going to get another beer, but I had freaked her out so bad when I finished my friend's sentence and made her realize that she just had to pee. It was my first time meeting her, so she thought I was like a witch or something. I will never forget that strange day. I looked at the exact same scenery daily for 4 years. There was a wooded area behind our house. We had a high-rise back porch, you know, the ones that are on stilts. Well, anyway, we didn't smoke in the house, so you can imagine just how much I looked out at the trees and stuff every time I smoked. One day, I stepped out, and it looked like a section in between the trees that was normally filled in was gone. It seemed extra empty. These were tall pines. They didn't just move. I looked at the empty space for a bit and then glanced away for a second. And when I looked back, the missing space is filled in again and back to normal. It was like someone was like, oops, let me put back the trees before she notices. I swear it. I'm not sure if this is an actual glitch or something else, but earlier this morning I had my phone in my hand. I put it down to make a sandwich, came back, and my phone was nowhere to be found. I looked everywhere. Finally, I found it underneath the table by itself with a sticker right on top of the screen. Bottom line, someone moved it. I am alone in the house. The most interesting thing was that I think the sticker has an underlying message for me regarding a question I've been asking about myself. Almost as if someone is answering me and wanted to make sure I got the answer somehow. There is no way the phone could have gotten there, even if I shoved it on the side of the couch and tried to put it there under the table. I would have physically not been able to do it. In no way that sticker could have gotten on the screen. I don't understand what happened. I have experienced a few odd things here and there, but there has been one that has always stuck out to me, and I'm wondering if anyone else has experienced something similar. I was on a road trip with my husband. We were on the highway, and there was a southwest plane to our left traveling in the same direction as us. It was close enough to the ground for me to make out the word southwest, and my eyesight sucks. Okay, so now the creepy part. The plane was not moving. It looked like it had started to take off and then just completely stopped. It wasn't going up, it wasn't going down, it was just completely still in the sky. I followed it with my eyes for as long as I could, thinking maybe it was just traveling at the same speed distance as us, so maybe it was just like a trick of the eyes. But it just stayed there in the same spot as we kept driving. It was absolutely the trippiest thing I'd ever seen. A friend and I were at a Chinese restaurant. We ordered General Tso's chicken dinner and a shrimp lo mein dish. When we sat down, we took out both boxes and set them on the table, about 2 feet apart. My friend opens the first box and we see the shrimp lo mein dish. It has all the things in there, shrimp, fried rice, noodles. He closes the box and opens the other box. It is another shrimp lo mein dish, shrimp, fried rice, noodles. Oh, I think they must have mixed up the order, I was about to say, when my friend says out loud, looks like they made a mistake and gave us 2. As he opens the first box again, inside is the General Tso dinner order. General Tso chicken, white rice, an egg roll. He froze and looked at me. I looked back at him. Then we sat in silence. It took us 5 minutes or so to collect ourselves. I have no idea what the F happened. I was sitting in my office one day when my desk phone rings, and it is my undersheriff asking me to bring all the reports, dispatch logs, any documentation ref to a specific, so I get it all together and start towards his office. I meet him in the hallway and hand him the paperwork. He asked me what it was, and I told him. It's the documents you asked me for. He then swears he never asked me for it. He never even called me. He just arrived. He was on his way down the hall, though, to get those exact papers together. To this day, I cannot explain what happened. I was watching TV with my friends, and we landed on some old 80s movies I used to watch over and over, but hadn't seen them in a long time. I had the dialogue memorized, and it all instantly came back, and I knew what was going to be said. Here's the freaky part. We changed channels and kept trying to find something to watch. I noticed that everything we watched was the same. I knew every dialogue, as if I was remembering it from having memorized it. These were all things I have never seen before. Here's the really freaky part. It started happening even when my friends were talking. An instant before they would say anything, I knew word for word what they were going to say. The effect only lasted an hour or so, but it was so bizarre. Every once in a while, I have dreams about people and places that I've never seen before. And then about 6 to 7 months later, I'm in the place or with the people and have deja vu. I also sing random songs, even when there's another song playing on the radio, and then the next song will be the song that I had just been singing. I have done this on mine, my best friend's, and my girlfriend's iPod on shuffle many, many times. And it freaks them the F out every time. One super weird thing that happened in about 2012-ish, I was 19 and living at home with my parents and younger sister still. I came home from work from a barbecue place, and my sister says to me, "Oh, I thought you were off today." I'm confused because I left at 5 a.m. before anyone was awake. And so I ask her, "When did I say that?" She says, "Like 2 hours ago in your room." She thinks I'm screwing with her, so I tell her to smell me because after work, you can smell the barbecue sauce and smoke on me. Then she gets really creeped out and tells me she went in my room earlier and seen me in bed with my blankets pulled up to my neck and she even had a 15-minute conversation with me. That stuff really creeped me out, and I have never felt comfortable in that room ever since. About 15 years ago, my friend's parents, Steve and Julie, were woken up at 1 a.m. to a very loud thud that rattled the house. Worried that one of the kids had fallen out of bed, Steve went downstairs to check on them, but all 3 kids were sound asleep, safe in their beds. Julie told Steve to check the house in case of intruders, so Steve checked the doors and windows before going outside to take a look. After 10 minutes of investigating the noise, Steve came across nothing unusual and went back inside to go to bed. He found his wife absolutely worried sick, and she demanded to know where the hell he had gone and what happened. Confused and tired, Steve told her he found nothing and tried to calm her down before Julie pointed out that it was now 4 a.m. and he had been missing for 3 hours. Julie had even gone outside to check on him, and he was nowhere to be found and didn't respond to her calling his name. Unable to figure out what happened, they returned to bed and slept until Steve had to get up for work in a few hours. Steve owns a painting business, and a couple hours after working on a house, he noticed his eyes started to feel itchy. Then his eyes started to burn. Then, after a couple hours, his eyes burned so badly that he was holding his eyelids open as to not blink because it felt like his lids were sandpaper against his eyes. His employees rushed him to the hospital, and Steve was treated for second-degree flash burns on his eyes. He was told his burns were the equivalent to staring at a welder's torch without eye protection for an extended period of time. His eyes were treated, and he was lucky to have his vision fully restored. No one can explain how or what happened to Steve that night.